Hi everybody, and welcome to our short video explaining some of the changes we've made, enhancements to our self-check-in system. My name's Andy Nash. I'm the MD of Nash Management Consultancy, and I'm joined today by two subject matter experts, Rob Grant and Billy Nash. So can I ask you guys to introduce yourself, perhaps starting with you, Rob?
Of course. So I'm Rob Grant. I'm the operations manager here at Nash Management Consultancy. My remit is to look after everything customer facing. So that's from point of order to delivery of any number of our services that we provide across the automotive industry.
Thank you, Rob. Could I ask you to do the same, please, Bill? Just introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Billy. I'm head of IT. I look after everything technical, so from the coding up to the integration of the systems and then the applications.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. So our self-check-in system's been around now for about 4 years, and during that period of time, the hardware's improved on several occasions. We're now on a 15.6-inch a dedicated touch screen PC unit in the top of the system. But really today what I wanted to cover was some of the enhancements we've made to both the software application so that the users can get more benefits out of the self-check-in system, but also the way in which you can control them remotely through the web portal. So anybody with an internet connection can log in with the correct authorization, of course, and make changes to the system that happen live. So to run through that, Rob, I don't know if I could pass over to you and you could take us through the web portal perhaps and how that works and some of these new features, please.
No problem at all. So, and as you rightly say, we spent a lot of time working on the very visual aspects and enhancing the screen size and the hardware of the self-check-in terminals themselves. But I guess what isn't really seen is the work that also goes on behind the scenes. And it's probably easier if I share my screen and run you through the portal, because a lot of work has been undertaken by Billy and the ops team to think more about how the customer can use and interact with our services. So what you're looking at now is the landing page for our portal, and this is just on a demonstration account that we have set up. Now, a lot of the functionality of the portal we'll be familiar with. So in terms of the customer reporting, we can still track usage, what time people are using the kiosks, what information is being changed by the end user when using the self-check-in terminals, customer satisfaction. All of those types of information is all still available. But one of the big enhancements is about bringing the system setup information onto the portal. So historically, this was all done at the terminal itself, and this was fine for individual installations. But as we started to work with more and more dealer groups, that's caused a requirement for centralized IT to want to interact with the system. So by moving all of this functionality online, it means that a service engineer doesn't need to be dispatched to the site to make any configuration changes. They can simply come in here, and if they, for example, have changed their email settings, then they can change any of their settings online. And once saved, these settings will automatically download to the kiosk. And as I said earlier, this prevents group IT having to go and do a physical site visit to make any changes. Using the same portal, however, we can also manipulate the screen journey that the customers take, the end users take, when actually using the terminal to check in. These are managed through this function here, the customer journey. And this allows, again, various functions within the application to be turned on and off. And as I mentioned, this controls what the customer sees and how the application interacts. Now I focus on this because this is really where some of the new functionality on the application has come in. So you'll be aware, Andy, obviously we're starting to work more and more globally, principally across continental Europe, but also beyond. And that's caused us to need to look at the language that the application is running in. So we've introduced this new functionality here of multi-language multi-language, and that will allow us, if I show you on this screen here, to select, apologies, to select any number of languages that the application can be worked in. We can also set the priority of those languages as well, so that you could display German and English, or English and German, for example. This gets around any political sensitivities that may exist. We have other functionalities here. We've got one here, virtual queue, and this allows the kiosk to be used for customers to check in to any other area within the business. So principally, check-ins are designed for the after-sales department, but with virtual queue, they can check in for new car sales, used car sales, parts, or for a general inquiry. So we're really making the kiosk much more versatile across the business rather than for a single function. One of the other key changes that we've introduced in the last 6 months is this option here about parking location. Now, once that's turned on, we can turn on a functionality here, branding, here, and upload an aerial view of the dealership's car park. And once that's uploaded and configured on the system, the customer can now indicate where in the car park they've parked their vehicle. This is particularly useful for larger retailers with extensive car parking. It's not always easy to find the customer car. In the next development, there is also the ability coming onto that same screen for a customer to be able to record an actual parking bay location. Again, this is something that is becoming increasingly more required for larger dealerships. So as we can see, there's a number of other options that are on here. One of the other big step forwards is that of upsell questions. And this allows us to configure questions on the customer journey where the customer can be asked, or the dealership rather, can ask a number of questions to the customer. Now, this can be used in any number of ways. We can see we can put in pre-formatting questions here at the bottom, and also either a simple yes or no answer to the question or a multi-choice. And we're seeing interest from customers, particularly for things like smart repairs, where if a dealership has an on-site smart repairer, they can turn these functionalities on and generate some extra revenue by turning this feature on and offering the customer those types of services. So there's been a lot of change over the background, probably too much to go on to in detail for this video, but I hope that gives a really interesting flavour. I did also mention about the connectivity. One of the other key features that we've applied, historically, our application has always worked with the DMS providers, where we can connect by getting the data report from the DMS. One of the features that we've now turned on is a web API functionality, where we can actually read information directly from the DMS if that API functionality is turned on by the data provider.
Okay.
I hope some useful information there.
No, thank you very much, Rob. That was very well explained. Fantastic new features there. So congratulations to both of you guys for, first of all, developing those, but then also launching them. It looks, in terms of usability, obviously, if you're familiar with it, it's very simple to use. But if we've got users out there that want assistance, how do they go about asking for assistance, Rob? And what do you provide to those users to help them to navigate their way through that?
No problem. So all of our licensed software, that license provides a portion of support for the application. And that can be through the initial installation phase, where my team are always on hand to be able to help with that, but also through the IT support functionality. If our customer's IT department aren't sure about how to configure something, we remain on hand. And there's multiple ways into that. We have a centralized email address for support. We're always available on the phone, but also you may have seen pop up on the portal as I was demonstrating it, a web chat functionality. And that allows us to live chat with our customers if that's a preferred way of routing. So there are many, many ways, different ways into our support functionality.
Okay, no, thank you for that. Interesting, probably a question for you, Bill, but Rob mentioned the API connection. So historically, the way that the self-check-ins operated, it's taken a feed from the DMS on an end-of-day report, so it knows which customers are booked in for the following day, and then can manage on all their details, so it can manage them appropriately. But Rob mentioned an API facility there. Could you just expand on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, previously we were using an extract from the DMS with people that were booked in for that day or that day and the next. But what would happen is sometimes that data can easily become out of date. For example, if someone comes in the morning or phones up and books their car in, they might not be on that extract. So we've introduced this new feature for the API, which is if like a live feed. It's straight into the DMS. So as a customer enters their registration, it will pull down all the information they have on that customer, and we can also tailor that to which information we display and how we display it. Some APIs also allow write back functionality. So where we used to read from an extract, there is no write back functionality. But now with this API, we are able to send information back to the DMS where required as well.
Okay, so you can work with the DMS providers and create an API for pretty much any DMS if you wish to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well that's a really useful feature, because that write back in particular is something that I know that customers have asked for in the past, so that's fantastic. Okay, the other thing is, when we were talking through some of these new features, Rob, I wonder how you're going to make people aware, because we're developing the software continuously. I know you guys are working feverishly in the background, developing new features and enhancements, but how do we notify our users and our customers of these changes?
So we've made some fairly significant changes, because you're right, Andy. Historically, we've not been particularly good at notifying our existing customers of new functionality as it's delivered. So it's great moving forward because all our new customers are getting all of the new features, but we're not telling people retrospectively. So we're changing our communication strategy, and some of our existing customers will have seen some communication that went out last week about enhanced functionality. And that's the first stage of the changes that we're making, whereas we are making releases for new versions broadly once a quarter now. And as part of that, there will be a quarterly release note that goes out to all of our customers through the existing email functionality that the application has, which will be telling the customers what functionality has now been introduced, what it does, some brief descriptions and some overviews, but also reminding them that if they're interested in that, to look at the portal, and also just to confirm that the support functionality is there as well, that we can help make any configuration changes that are needed. Additionally to that, coming in the next week or so will be a change to the portal where a customer will actually be able to see the version releases that we're making. So not only with the quarterly releases that come out, which will have the big functionality changes, but also if we need any patch releases, we'll be publishing those online as well. So whilst these changes will all automatically feed into the kiosk without any interaction, if a customer needs to know what's changed and when that's changed, they can very easily see that directly through the portal.
Okay, so this portal seems to be the go-to place for making these changes.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants an account or have forgotten their password or how to access this, I guess they can just ring us or contact support, and we'd be able to give them the relevant information or set an account up for them. Is that quite a simple process that you guys can deal with?
Yeah, it's a simple request through. All we need really is an email address and which dealer that customer is linked to. Obviously, we perform a validation, so we don't get any any cross data. But with all of that information between Billy and me, we can get those users' accounts set up and operating in no time. There is also a fairly extensive portal manual, which is available both on the portal, but we can also send out through the support functionality. So if a customer has trouble sleeping, they can always download that manual and have a good old read.
Okay, so for listeners, that's support at N for Norman, M for Mother, C for Charlie, L for Lima, T for Tango, D for Delta. So support at NMC. ltd.co.uk, or they can ring the telephone number 01525 372 001, and somebody will be able to help them there. Okay, that's absolutely super. There was one last question I have really on that was I noticed when you were going through it, Rob, there was a shop. I don't know, Billy, if that's something that is completed. Is that active on the portal or not? And if so, what can we buy through the shop?
Yeah, well, the shop is there. It's live. It's growing as we add new items on there. So at the minute, what you can buy on there is a complete kiosks, new hardware for it, whether it be printers or screens, handheld versions. We printers for the printer rolls for the printers. We're also adding on there the new antimicrobial screen protectors, which they stop 99.9% of bacteria on the screens. So yeah, the shop is continually growing with new items that we find, and that we see in the hardware system, and marketing material being one of them, and we add up onto the shop.
Excellent. Okay. Have we got any experience of anyone using any of these new features yet? I suppose that's really for you, Rob.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more uptake. I mean, I think it's interesting. Obviously, with the current situation on COVID-19, self-check-in has become more relevant, and a lot of dealers are starting to use this as part of their social distancing measures. And Billy mentioned earlier about the antimicrobial screens. And having the ability to fit those on and also turn on a message within the application to say a screen cover is fitted for everyone's safety. So we're seeing more and more uptake, and as a result, we're actually seeing more and more interaction. So I mentioned earlier the upsell questions, and particularly I highlighted on smart repairs, because that seems to be something that's really engaging with vehicle owners when they're using the self-check-in. We're starting to see a lot, particularly with things like alloy wheel repair. But also because of the season, we're going to be changing into winter tyres in some areas. Again, those upsell questions are really useful for those types of campaigns for the dealer maybe wanting to run. I guess the really good news is that actually what is available now is kind of upsell questions version 1. But behind the scenes, we've also been working on upsell questions version 2, which is going to be a much more dynamic way of interacting with the customers in a much more visual way. So it'll highlight photographs of the product rather than just asking simple questions and answers. So it will move the current screen process into something that's much more dynamic and user-friendly. So we're working on that at the moment, and that will be one of the key pieces that we'll be releasing on the next release.
Brilliant. We should do another video when that one's available then to explain that to users. So, okay, it just remains to me to say thank you very much, guys. I mean, thank you very much for updating us all on the latest web portal and features within the self-check-in. It's been fantastic. I think it's very exciting, and I think this has been a useful video to explain some of those features to people. So thank you very much. Is there anything either of you guys want to add finally before we say goodbye to everybody?
No, just thank to our customers for their continued support in our business. Their customers is greatly appreciated and welcome.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much for your time today. That's been really useful. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.